Thank you. 1st of September, Rabbi Furst, Parsha Hashavua, Savo.
Thank you, Lou. Right, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst, as Lou mentioned, here, Shiva Tzamanav, Yerushalayim, here of Zoom. We're learning Parsha Hashavua, Savo, as we mentioned, and I'll direct your attention to chapter 29, Chaftes, Pasuk Aleph. We'll take a look at what Moshe Rabbeinu has to tell to Israel, very important things, and we'll try and understand things on as best we can. Yeah, who would like to begin to do a little reading here?
Excuse me. I would.
Okay, fine, very good. Right.
Okay, so Vayikra Moshe El Kol Yisrael Vayomer Ale. You okay, Roy?
No, this Devarim.
Yes, what,
28.
You can't.
29. Sorry, 29. I've got here Atem Nitzovim Hayom.
You know, that's verse number 9, I think. We want verse number 1.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. No,
I wondered what was going.
We're okay.
All right then. Right, so that starts with Yikra Moshe.
Yes.
That's
all right. Okay. I wondered what was going on. Thank you.
Pleasure. Vayomer Elah Alehem Atem Reisem Ace Kol Asher Asa Hashem Elokechem Be'eretz Mitzrayim Lefaro Ulechol Avadav Ulechol Artso. So Moshe called all of Israel, and he said to them, "You have seen all that Hashem did, Hashem your God did in Egypt to Paro and to all his servants and to all his land."
So now,
Rashi?
Again, so let's just think 1 minute about the pasuk itself. We can break it down into several components. Yikra Moshe El Ben Kol Yisrael, mentioned Kol Yisrael, each and every one in Kol Yisrael. That's number 1. The Yomer Lehem, and he said is thusly to them. Atem Risem, Eif Kol Asher Asa Hashem Leinekim, Eretz Mitzrayim. The Pharaoh full of the dog, so it says what Hashem did, and you saw with your eyes, Hashem did in the Eretz Mitzrayim to Pharaoh. Number 1, we call of a dove and all his servants. We call Artso, and this whole land. That's a significant addition. And we call Artso, not only to Pharaoh himself and to all his servants, and but also to the whole land of Mitzrayim. So let's think now about what Rashi has to tell us about this. Okay.
Can I give a question, please, about maybe a slight change of wording in my Chumash here? I've got you have seen all that the Eternal did before your eyes. It's got here eternal. Despite Hashem's name being Hashem there in the text, I think maybe at this stage it's important that the Bnei Israel realize that Hashem is eternal. He's the one God.
Yeah, where do we see the reference to the eternity of Kadosh Baruch Hu?
Where do we see the reference of what?
Hashem being eternal, right?
Yeah, it's got the translation here. Instead of saying and Hashem, and you've seen all that Hashem did before your eyes.
Yes.
All right. It says you have seen all that the Eternal did before your eyes.
Okay, all right. I guess they don't want to use the name Hashem. Okay, I understand. Fine, that's okay. That's good.
I mean, they use the word, they use other words for Hashem's name differently. So
Yeah.
I think they did it purposefully.
Okay, all right,
Anyway, so it's just a point, I suppose.
fine. Okay, very good.
Okay, so let's see.
The Rashi,
I'm looking to see where Rashi is.
don't know if you've got it. 20,
29:1. I don't see a Rashi.
we've got 29:3.
Yeah, I see 3. I don't see 1.
No. There's nothing for 1 or 2, apparently.
Okay.
Should I read on, Rabbi?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hamasos hagedolos asher ra'u necha ha'osos v'hamofsim hagedolim hahem. So great trials that your eyes saw, and great signs and wonders those great signs and wonders. Let me just open the door so a second.
Yeah.
I've got workers here. I have to make sure I listen in case they call me.
Oh,
Uh,
so it says here,
sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Amoshos gedolos asher reu enecha. Also to moksim gedolim hahem. So you have 3 different things here. You have mosos, gedolos, oisos, moksim gedolim hahem. There are 3 different things here. Now Rashi does not explain what the difference between those things are.
Right. My
Mhm.
emphasis says trials, signs, and wonders.
Mhm.
What?
Trials, signs, and wonders. Okay.
All right. So number 3, Velo nasan Hashem lachem lev ledas ve'e naim liros va'az naim lishmoa ad hayom hazeh. And Hashem has not given you a heart to understand, eyes to see, and ears to hear until this day. So Rashi says that Hashem did not give you a heart to know, to recognize the kindnesses of the Holy One, blessed is He, and to cleave to Him.
Oh, so now this is where Rashi comes. Rashi now makes comments about this.
there's a footnote here, according to the Gur Aryeh, the verse does not mean that they were not endowed with intellect or facilities or faculties of vision and hearing until that day. It refers specifically to appreciation of what God has done for them.
So 1 second. So again, your Arya. First, okay, hold on let's look at the Rashi first. Then we'll look at the your note there.
Okay. So until this day, Rashi says, I have heard that day on which Moshe gave the book of the Torah to the sons of Levi, as it is written, Moshe wrote this Torah and he gave it to the Kohanim, the sons of Levi. All Israel came before Moshe and said to him, Moshe, our master, we too stood at Sinai and we accepted the Torah and it was given to us. Why do you put the sons of your tribe in charge of it? So that one day they may say to us, it was not given to you, it was given to us. Moshe rejoiced over the matter. Regarding this, he said to them, this day you have become a people to Hashem your God, etc. That is, this day I have understood that you cleave to and desire the omnipresent.
No, okay, let's go slowly here. There's what is first of all, Lo Nasan Hashem Leiv L'das. What's the Leiv L'das? What? Right? The Hakir, that's Hakir, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to recognize, to acknowledge the Hesed of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, without people, and to clean the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this statement in and of itself is very, very difficult. What is that until that time they didn't recognize the mercies, the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think that's pretty basic, that's pretty basic.
Well, that's
Right.
where Lou's comment of a gur comes in.
Okay,
Right.
so once,
It's the word appreciation.
yeah,
That they knew it, they heard it, saw it, but they didn't appreciate it.
right. Well, okay, so they knew. I mean, they knew about it, right? They knew about it, but the question of really, I guess integrating it. I guess that's what the Guru Arya is saying, that there was a lack of integration. It took time to integrate it.
I think maybe retrospect that all this stuff was happening, and there's an emphasis on gadol, that these all were great things. It may be that they needed a little bit of perspective to appreciate really how great it was. It all was. It all has happening. Bam, bam, bam. The plagues and the sea and the Egyptians dying and the song, and it was all happening pretty fast. Although I know it didn't take a year for the plagues, but nevertheless, things of that magnitude, it may be that they just needed the historical perspective to look back on it. At this was the first point where they had the ability to do that.
That the the question of making it a true and because I think the last two words in Rashi, right? I think the last two words in Rashi will help us understand this too. But right?
I see v'hei feitzim b'makom.
Excuse me?
The last two words I see in the Rashi is v'cha feitzim b'makom.
Oh no, okay, no. We'll go back to that too. I mean, at the very beginning, the first comment of Rashi, no listen Hashem le'ivladat lahaki especially Hashem was davik. Right?
I see it. Yeah.
So I mean, what Rashi's doing, he's something lamais is taking place, meaning it wasn't simply to be mocked. You recognize. Sometimes you can, yeah, I recognize, I admit, but the point being here that they did something was taken. They were going another step. Now they were coming closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu because of it.
Right. Right.
I think that's meaning that's the unique part about it. I mean that the recognition of the Kadosh Baruch Hu's kindness to them was now so fully integrated that now that was a motivating factor in having them come closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Right. And it's the same actually with the second Rashi that I was just looking at. It's the same. It says she'atem devekim b'cha feitzim b'makom, that you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad when you mentioned that was what you thought I was talking about. When you saw that, I said to myself also exactly. It's Rashi's saying the same thing was an effect. It was an effect that was also dealing with something which now becoming a reality in certain
Right.
right. Very good. Okay, that's nice. That's very good. Okay, that's nice. Okay, okay. So let's look at the next part of the Rashi. Yeah, Ad Yom. Yeah. So would say let's go back to the Dor Aryeh said again. Let's just review that point you made that there was a comment from the Maram Befraz.
Right. Yeah. So it says the verse does not mean that they were not endowed with intellect or the faculties of vision and hearing until this day. It refers specifically to appreciation of what God had done for them.
Right.
Which is not exactly what you're saying, but it's similar.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Fine.
Rashi's words are more to the point, that of cleaving and desiring Hashem. It's not just appreciation of that how great the things are that Hashem did, but it's the next step, which is to say, and therefore, I want to become Hashem's partner, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, that says here with regards to cleaving, the cleaving to God mentioned by Rashi is that which is mentioned at the end of the comment. By their request that the Torah should be entrusted to them, they had shown their willingness to cleave to God, and they had thereby that day become the people of the Lord.
Right.
That's a note.
Yeah. That's right. Very fine. Okay, very good. All right, let's continue on.
All right. The olech eschem arba'im shana b'midbar lo valu stal moseichem me'alechem v'na'alcha lo valsa me'al raglecha. Okay, so I led you 40 years in the wilderness, and your garment did not wear out from upon you, and your shoes did not wear out from on your foot. So there's no Rashi on that. Lechem lo achaltem v'yayin v'shechar lo shisem leman ted'u ki ani Hashem Elokechem. Bread you did not eat, and wine or something that makes you drunk you did not drink, in order that you should know that it is I, Hashem your God. That I am Hashem your God. No Rashi on that one. Vatavo'u el hamakom hazeh v'yetze Sichon Sichon melech Cheshbon v'og melech Habashan lik ra seinu lamil chama v'nakem. And you came to the place, to this place, and Sichon, the king of Habashan, and Og, the king of, Sichon, the king of Cheshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, they went out towards you, towards us. Excuse me.
Gesund.
Thank you. They went out towards us to battle. And we smote them. Okay, so the Rashi on 6 is, and you arrived at this place. Now you see yourselves in greatness and honor. Do not rebel against the omnipresent, and do not let your hearts become haughty. And you shall keep the words of this covenant. Alternatively, but Hashem did not give you a heart to know. For a person does not fully assimilate his teacher's ways of thinking or the wisdom of that which he has studied until 40 years later. Therefore, the omnipresent was not particular with you until this day. Oh, it's 40 years later. Right,
Well, they're about to go into Eretz Israel after 40 years wandering.
right. So
Right.
it's been 40 years. And when it says until this day, it means it's been 40 years.
Anniversary.
So that emphasizes my point about perspective.
Yeah, go, like, explain again, go ahead.
I'm saying that you need perspective, historical perspective to appreciate some things. You have to look back over time. You know, like um, in Elul, each day or most days or some days, I write in a diary um, about what's happening to me.
Yeah.
And then in Elul, I go back to last Elul and I read through all of the things that I wrote. And it's very helpful because I have a perspective now. I'm looking back over the course of a year and seeing the sequences of events and the juxtapositions of things that I didn't necessarily appreciate at the time. That, oh, that happened right after that. Oh, I didn't realize that. And it gives you a perspective. And I think that's what I'm saying here, that until this day, 40 years later, now you look back on all the events and how great they were, and you appreciate them through that perspective.
Right. I mean, yeah, definitely the retrospective gives you a deeper appreciation. I mean, what Rashi mentioned that Moshe Rabbeinu was mentioning, your shoes didn't, you didn't need new shoes, you didn't need new clothes, right? Right.
Right.
That. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they just took that for granted. I mean, people. I guess people could think maybe that that's just the way it is. That you don't, shoes don't wear out, clothes don't wear out. They just, you just look focused. You don't really notice it.
Right. Well, I would imagine because of all the pressure of the events, they didn't really have much time to think about that and to plan. How are we going to get more clothing? How are we going to get more shoes?
Right.
They didn't plan about it because they were worried about so many things. And then after a while, they realized, they're not wearing out. Interesting. I guess we don't need to worry about it, at least not for the time being. Then after 40 years, they can look back and say, wow.
Right. And we have to realize that also these people that were that have been in the midbar 40 years, meaning the old generation is now passed on, right? That generation, anyone who was above 20 years old at the time of coming out of Mitzrayim, at the time of Matan Torah, that generation has now passed on.
Right.
So if a person was 19 years old, meaning he had the right to live, so he's 19, so now he's plus 40, so he's 59 years old. 59 years old. So again, I mean, a 19-year-old, so he was there at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim. He saw the things that took place. He was old enough to understand that they were slaves in Mitzrayim. I mean, he had a certain amount of maturity at that point already. He was being almost 20 years old. So they have, a certain amount of maturity. But yet living in the midbar for 40 years with these, surrounded by these tremendous mercies, really. I mean, mercies that Kadosh Baruch Hu did for them. So I guess it can become somewhat routine that this is the way life is. And now they're on the verge of going into Eretz Israel, right? So things are going to be different, right? They're going to have to get new shoes. They're going to have to buy new clothes. Right? There won't be the man. Even though at this point they had stopped eating the man now anyway, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they had some left over. Yeah, these things were very important things for most people to point out at this particular time. And it's at this specific time that Rashi mentions twice the Davkabo. Now's your opportunity. Now's your opportunity to take a retrospective review of what Hashem has been doing for you, and to draw close to Kadosh Baruch Hu because of it, because your understanding, your acknowledgement of what Hashem has been doing. Right? I mean, a lot of times we don't, the davening sometimes goes too quickly, especially in the morning. We don't, with the Psukim Zimra and all the things we're mentioning there, we don't, at least I find I don't really have enough time to properly try and integrate, everything I'm saying in the Psukim Zimra in terms of integrating it, in terms of trying to focus my acknowledgement of what a Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing for me and what he's doing for the family, what he's doing for Klal Yisrael, for the whole world, the whole universe, and to try and integrate that into a concrete way of becoming closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. The morning davening is a beautiful opportunity to bring us close to Kadosh Baruch Hu in a way of recognizing what Hashem does for us, and also being thankful for it, and also trying to develop ways to concretely serve Kadosh Baruch Hu in better and more significant ways because of it, because of all the wonderful things Hashem is doing for us.
Mhm.
Right.
All right.
I
Okay.
didn't finish the Rashi, but from now on,
Yeah.
you will be strict, therefore, and you shall keep the words of this covenant, etc. From now on, in other words, when we go into Israel, we're not going to have all these miracles. That's what it's referring to.
But I think now that you, as this is going on to what the Rashi mentioned at the beginning of the Rashi, right? That Ata Atem Risem Atem L'Gdol L'Kavod, right? And that actually the Davraka, it's really the Davraka. Lo Nason Hashem Leiv L'Das, right? And up until now, Hashem has not given you a heart to a way of understanding these things. But now it's going to be different, right? Shein Atem Ein Adam Omer Al Das Rabbi. Right? But now that they have the 40 years behind them, so now they are going to be held responsible for having the proper perspective and applying their intelligence properly to serving the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Up until now, Hashem's not been makbid, but now that the 40 years has passed and they're intelligently responsible for this, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to hold them responsible for it.
Right. It occurred to me also as you were talking, Rabbi, that the fact that the oldest person is now 59 and was really a child at the time, even though a 19-year-old is mature, like you said, and he has an understanding, but nevertheless, he's not so involved in the planning, in the societal aspects that the adults who are the parents are involved in, so that he wouldn't necessarily appreciate as much things like the fact that the clothes are not wearing out. He at 19 years old, he probably wasn't too worried about that. That was the parents' the concern.
I think they were more mature earlier in those days than now. So I think a 19-year-old then is probably equivalent to, I don't know, I'm just pulling out of the air. 19-year-old, 20-year-old was probably as mature as a 30 or 35 or even 40-year-old. So they had a shorter lifespan, didn't they?
No,
No, they had a longer lifespan, but yeah, all right, yeah. But I think they were more mature earlier.
Yeah,
They
well,
took more on.
I think we can work with both of both things what you're saying, meaning even in case of if they had true as you mentioned in the earlier generations they had more maturity than what we witnessed in our generations. So given that, let's say we'll accept that as the case. Nevertheless, I think what Lou is saying is also valid in the following way, because in spite of their maturity, they may be more mature, but yet that I think what Lou was trying to mention here was that a 19-year-old, even he may be intelligent and wise in certain ways, but nevertheless he doesn't have that. He's more self-centered, I think, than older people. Older people, once they become into their 30s, their 40s, and onward in the decades, they become less self-centered, and they feel more of a responsibility and a participation in the general group, meaning we're talking about Klal Yisrael. So in terms of being a responsible, active member of Klal Yisrael, I think it probably is more common to find those things probably in more mature individuals, even though they may exhibit greater maturity than what we have in our generations now. And I have no doubt that they were and more intelligent and more mature and responsible than our generation. But nevertheless, speaking
The women.
proportionately, they still may not have that concept of being more. Rav Scheinberg Zechron Baruch used to use a phrase in Yiddish called a klal person, a klal mensch. I mentioned that literally is a person, a klal meaning like we say Klal Yisrael, the group, the Am Yisrael, the group of Klal Yisrael, the group of the Jewish people. So a klal mensch is somebody who is interested and caring about the general good, the general welfare. Whereas like probably your average 19-year-old, irregardless of how mature he may be, relatively speaking, in any given particular generation, but nevertheless his perspective in terms of being part of a group and caring about the group as something which he is part of and responsible for, correspondingly speaking, probably has that type of a lack of significance and meaning of being part of the group.
Mm. The self-centeredness, we've seen that in our teenagers and early 20s, in our own grandchildren. And it doesn't mean that they're not nice or anything. They're beautiful children, but you can see that that they do think about themselves.
Yeah, I think that's probably natural, at that age.
Yeah.
But, most people, first of all, a lot of people may not necessarily be married at that age. So until a person gets married, he's really very self-centered. Like, the world revolves around himself. Once a person gets married, so now he has a wife or he has a husband to consider. So now, and then after that, there's a family. Oh, and after that, there's a community, right? And after that, there's a nation, there's a people, and then there's a world, a universe to be part of, right? So those things, it goes in stages where people are found and available in a group setting, which when people are younger, they don't value that group setting, like group reality as other people do who are older already. Sure.
Yeah, I think girls are are more towards this than boys.
Yeah, could be.
They're more caring.
Yeah, when you have to cook for a family, you have to be naturally more caring than, right?
Our grandchildren cook for the family. They make a whole Shabbos
Yeah.
without the parents having to lift a finger.
Very nice. Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Very nice.
Really Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, very nice. Well, indeed. Very good. Okay, let's continue on a bit now. Okay, so that brings us, I think, to the end of the Rashi's here at the end of the Parsha. But that's at the end of the Parsha. But we have a few minutes more. We might as well say something that has to do with the beginning of the Parsha also as well. Very, very important. And take a look. If we go back a bit to right over here that at the very beginning of the Parsha. Take a look at in chapter Vav, Pasuk Aleph.
V'haya ki Savo el haaretz asher Hashem Elokecha nosein lecha nasa nachala vivrishta vayashavta ba, and it will be when you come into the land that Hashem your God gives you, as an inheritance, and you take possession of it and dwell in it. The Rashi says, it will be when you enter the land, etc., and you take possession of it and dwell in it. This tells us that they were not obligated concerning the commandment of Bikurim until they conquered the land of Canaan and apportioned it. And that's because in verse 2 it talks about Bikurim.
Right. It corresponds exactly. This is all related to the first part of the Parsha is referring to the specific mitzvah of bringing the Bikurim, which is dependent upon coming into Eretz Israel, right? That's the first Rashi. You see the first Rashi there, Magi, don't describe Bikurim.
Yes, that's what I just read.
Yeah, so that's the connection between what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying now and them coming into the land. I mean, they should prepare themselves that the mitzvahs, as we say, are dependent on Eretz Israel. So a lot of those mitzvahs are going to be coming to fruition when they come into Eretz Israel. Let's see the next passage, Rashis, Rashis. Okay, next passage.
V'lakachta me reshis kol pri ha'adama asher tavi me artzecha asher Hashem Elokecha nosein lach v'samta v'teneh v'halachta el hamakom asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha l'shakein shemo sham. Okay, so and you will take from the first of all the fruits of the ground that you bring from the land that Hashem your God gives to you, and you shall put it in a basket, and you will go to the place that Hashem your God will choose, to make his name rest there.
Very good. That's right. Very good.
Make his name rest there. That's an interesting phrase. Let's see what Rashi says. On the first, but not the entire fruit, for not all fruits come under the obligation of Bikurim, just as the 7 species alone. I'm sorry, just the 7 species alone. We see this as follows. The word Eretz, land, is stated here in the form of Me Artzecha, from your land. Just as, I'm sorry, as it says above, a land, Eretz, of wheat, barley, etc. Just as above, the verse speaks of the 7 species by which the land of Israel is praised, so here too, the verse speaks of the praise of the land of Israel, which are the 7 species.
Right. Those things, those 7 species are species which give renown and fame and recognition to Eretz Israel. They're specifically native to Eretz Israel, and they have very great value in their ability of nourishment, of taste and flavors and versatility, and those things give praise to Kadosh Baruch Hu through the fact that they are indigenous to here at Eretz Israel.
The term oil olives of the verse cited above refers to the Aguri olive, which is called by that name because its oil is collected inside it. And honey mentioned in that verse is the honey of dates. On the first, a man goes down to his field and sees a fig that has begun to ripen. He wraps a reed grass around the first fruit as a sign and says, "This is hereby consecrated as Bikurim."
Right. That's the beginning of the fulfillment of the mitzvah. He has to demarcate the first fruits, the Bikurim, and then he has to wait till they finally become ripe, and then he finally takes them to Shalayim, right? But the first thing is to go out and find the fruits when they're first budding, when the fruits are first budding, and to mark it off and designate it.
Now he does that for 1 fruit for each species that he has.
As far, I don't think so. I think it's enough with 1, but I think people would bring a lot. I don't think there's any particular amount that you have to bring. You can bring as much as you want. So people probably engaged and embellished it a bit more known.
I see.
Very good.
But the minimum would be 1 fruit for each species.
I'm not sure if you have to do it for every species. It might be enough 1 from amongst all of them.
I see.
It mentions here that there are some fruits, even of the 7 species, that you don't have to bring. It doesn't tell what.
Yeah, I'm not
Right.
sure when it comes to wheat, whether you just bring one one wheat kernel. I mean, it's not exactly a very significant amount. One wheat
No.
kernel.
One
Right.
kernel. Yeah,
So,
okay.
very
right.
good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Roy. You should have a
Thank
vote
you.
together, Shabbos. And we
Thank
hope to
you.
see you again on Yom Rishon, Mitzvah Shem.
Thank you. And you too will be well, you and your family. Have a nice Shabbos and forget all about us. You can
Oh.
relax.
Don't forget about me.
Don't forget about you. Be well. Thank you very much.
All right, call too.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.